There's a quiet revolution happening in the lives of seniors who are choosing to stop hiding from the natural rhythms of their bodies and start embracing them with renewed honesty and intention. And at the center of this revolution is a practice that many still treat with shame or secrecy, even though its power to heal and restore is undeniable: masturbation. And while the word itself may still carry outdated baggage for some, those who take the time to understand what it truly means for physical and emotional wellness after 60 are beginning to discover a path toward deeper self-care, better sleep, and even improved health markers across the board. Because this isn't just about momentary pleasure or something to fill the silence. It's about actively engaging with a part of the self that society has told older adults to forget, to shut down, to abandon in favor of more age-appropriate behaviors. But what's appropriate is what brings vitality, comfort, and wellness into one's life. And masturbation, when understood as a form of self-connection, not just self-stimulation, is increasingly being recognized by healthcare professionals, therapists, and yes, urologists, as a legitimate and powerful tool for seniors seeking to regain control over their well-being, especially when it comes to regulating stress, improving sleep quality, maintaining hormonal balance, strengthening cardiovascular health, and enhancing emotional resilience. And all of this is more than theory. It's based in biology, because as the body ages, the systems that once ran on autopilot, circulation, metabolism, hormone production, neural connectivity, begin to shift, and if left unattended, these changes can lead to a slower decline in everything from libido to mood to immune function. But what makes masturbation such a uniquely potent remedy is that it addresses many of these systems at once, beginning with its profound effect on the nervous system, because each time the body is brought to climax, it experiences a powerful release of neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, the same chemicals responsible for happiness, bonding, relaxation, and sleep. And for older adults who struggle with insomnia, anxiety, or racing thoughts at night, the simple act of self-pleasure can reset the body's internal rhythms, mimicking the calming effects of meditation or deep breathing, but with the added benefit of physical satisfaction. And what's especially important to understand is that this isn't about replicating the intensity of youthful encounters or chasing performance metrics. It's about allowing the body to do what it was designed to do: find balance through sensation, release, and rest. And when done with mindfulness, masturbation can become a daily or weekly ritual that helps clear mental clutter, reduce cortisol levels, and prepare the body for deeper, more restorative sleep. And this matters more than most people realize, because quality sleep is foundational to everything else: cognitive sharpness, joint health, digestion, emotional stability. And seniors who experience regular, fulfilling sleep report higher energy levels, fewer aches and pains, better memory retention, and even more positive interactions with loved ones, all of which can be gently supported by the physiological reset triggered during orgasm. And that reset is not just limited to the brain. It also affects the body's stress response system as a whole, especially the autonomic nervous system, which controls everything from blood pressure to heart rate variability. And as this system shifts into parasympathetic mode during and after orgasm, it encourages a state of deep calm, often lasting long after the moment of climax itself. And for those who have dealt with years of chronic tension, anxiety, or emotional suppression. This release can feel like a quiet miracle, a moment of peace that the body both craves and remembers. And it's important to say clearly that this peace is not trivial or indulgent. It is essential, especially for seniors navigating loneliness, grief, or the physical consequences of aging. And when self-touch becomes a gateway to that peace, it stops being something taboo and becomes something sacred, something empowering, something that says, I'm still alive, I am still connected, I'm still worthy of pleasure and rest. And that affirmation begins to echo beyond the bedroom or the quiet moment alone. It carries into how one breathes, walks, speaks, even how one eats and sleeps, because the body starts to feel more like home again, more responsive, more trustworthy. And that's just the beginning of what this simple practice can unlock when approached with intention and care. And as the body begins to reacquaint itself with the rhythms of pleasure and release, something remarkable begins to happen internally, almost quietly at first, like a stream of light entering a space long untouched. Because while the first benefit most people recognize from masturbation is improved sleep and emotional regulation, what follows soon after is a gentle but significant boost to the immune system, a shift that is less about preventing a cold and more about reawakening the entire landscape of cellular communication, hormone production, and tissue repair. And what the latest research is showing is that orgasm, whether shared with a partner or achieved alone, prompts a measurable increase in immunoglobulin A levels, the very antibodies responsible for defending the body against respiratory infections and chronic inflammation. And for seniors over 60, whose immune systems may already be under greater stress due to age-related changes, medications, or past illnesses, this means that the act of self-pleasure is not just emotionally healing, but also physically protective. And when this practice becomes a consistent part of one's lifestyle, it functions almost like a gentle daily workout for the endocrine and lymphatic systems, increasing circulation, flushing toxins, supporting lymph movement, and boosting the body's ability to repair tissues, regulate inflammation, and defend against harmful microbes. And unlike strenuous exercise, which may not always be possible or advisable depending on mobility, joint health, or energy levels, masturbation provides a safe, adaptable, and deeply pleasurable way to stimulate these systems from within without strain or danger. And the health benefits don't end with the immune system, because what many older adults are now discovering is that regular orgasm, again, even in the absence of a partner, can lead to long-term hormonal recalibration, particularly in balancing stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, with feel-good hormones like dopamine and endorphins. And this matters deeply in later life, not just because of mood, but because hormone imbalance is behind so many of the silent discomforts that come with aging. The tension in the shoulders that never goes away, the low-grade headaches, the occasional dizziness, the stubborn belly fat, the sudden irritability or fatigue. And so many of these symptoms can be traced back to cortisol levels that never get a chance to reset, that remain elevated day after day from worry, loneliness, overstimulation, or sleep deprivation. And what orgasm does, through a cascade of neurological and physiological responses, is pull the body out of that stress loop, even if only for a few minutes at first. And over time, with consistency, this helps retrain the body's default state toward calm, helping regulate appetite, stabilize blood sugar, reduce inflammation, and yes, improve sexual function itself. And it's worth saying clearly that one of the most meaningful yet overlooked aspects of this hormonal regulation is the impact it has on confidence. Because when a senior begins to feel that their body is not betraying them, but rather working with them, something changes inside their mindset. A quiet confidence returns, the sense that they're not broken, not fading, but instead evolving into a version of themselves that has more self-awareness, more compassion, and more strength than ever before. And this shift in self-perception ripples outward into relationships, whether that's a spouse, a longtime partner, or even just how one relates to family, friends, and caregivers. Because when intimacy is no longer tinged with shame or performance anxiety, but instead rooted in self-love and care, it becomes a source of connection rather than tension. And this is perhaps one of the most powerful gifts of masturbation in later life. The reclamation of touch as a language of love, not just for others, but for oneself. Because after 60, so much of the body changes, not only in appearance but in function. And many older adults begin to dissociate from their bodies, to avoid mirrors, to stop looking at or caring for certain parts of themselves. And this withdrawal creates a loneliness that goes far deeper than social isolation. It becomes a kind of internal exile, where one no longer feels at home in their own skin. And yet the act of self-pleasure can become a profound counterbalance to this exile, an invitation to come home again, to say with your hands, your breath, your awareness, I am still here, I still matter, I still deserve tenderness and attention. And in this way, masturbation becomes not just a way to pass time or release tension. It becomes a healing ritual, a quiet rebellion against the narrative that aging means the end of pleasure, and instead affirms that growing older is not a loss, but an expansion, a widening of the emotional and physical vocabulary of love. And from this place of wholeness, where the body and spirit begin to reconnect, health is no longer just about avoiding disease. It becomes about cultivating vitality, presence, and joy in every sense of the word. And as this self-guided journey of touch, connection, and bodily awareness deepens, there comes an unexpected but transformative benefit that many seniors never anticipate until they begin to notice it unfolding slowly in the background. An increase in cognitive clarity and emotional resilience. Because while masturbation is often framed purely in terms of physical release, the truth is that its impact on the brain is both immediate and cumulative. And it starts with the stimulation of regions responsible for pleasure and memory, the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, which are both deeply involved in emotional regulation, decision-making, and the storage of long-term memories. And when these areas are regularly activated in the context of healthy sexual self-expression, they begin to form stronger synaptic connections, which can improve everything from mood stabilization to focus and even delay cognitive decline. And this becomes particularly vital in older adults who are managing age. Related changes to the brain, such as decreased blood flow or mild memory fog, because regular orgasm doesn't just flood the brain with dopamine, which enhances mood and motivation. It also encourages neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to grow new neural pathways even in later life. And this isn't just speculation or theory. It's backed by neurological studies that have shown consistent sexual activity, even solo, can delay the onset of dementia symptoms and contribute to greater mental sharpness over time, not only due to the hormones involved, but also because of the way arousal and orgasm challenge the brain to remain present, focused, embodied, and responsive, all of which are critical for long-term cognitive health. And beyond the science lies a deeper, more soulful truth, which is that many seniors report feeling more awake after embracing masturbation as a form of care. Not just awake in a literal sense, but emotionally attuned, more in touch with their instincts, more receptive to the beauty around them, more grounded in the moment. And that sense of awakening has ripple effects across nearly every aspect of life. Because when the mind is clear and the body feels alive, things like daily conversations, nature walks, reading a book, preparing a meal, or even recalling the details of favorite memory all feel more vivid, more meaningful, and the world begins to open back up, not as something to merely observe, but something to fully engage with. And it's in these subtle awakenings that many older adults discover a renewed sense of identity, one that is not bound to who they were in youth or what roles they used to occupy, but instead grounded in the quiet power of knowing themselves intimately now, as they are in this chapter of life. And in that knowing, there's both strength and serenity, because when you have the courage to touch your own body with compassion instead of criticism, to seek pleasure without guilt, to embrace your humanness, rather than hide it, you cultivate a kind of emotional sturdiness that is unshakable, because it isn't dependent on anyone else's approval. And this is especially important in later life when so many changes, retirement, health conditions, loss of a partner, shifting social roles, can trigger feelings of unworthiness or invisibility. And yet when a person takes their pleasure and wellness into their own hands, literally and figuratively, they send a message to their own psyche that says, I still matter, I still deserve joy, I am not finished yet. And that message rewrites more than just brain chemistry. It begins to rewire how one sees themselves in the mirror, how one speaks to themselves in silence, and how one approaches the world with just a little more softness, a little more confidence, a little more grace. And what's so beautifully ironic is that for many, the benefits of this practice show up in places they least expected, like better posture, fewer aches and pains, more restful sleep, and even improved digestion, because the whole body operates more harmoniously when stress is reduced, when hormones are balanced, when the nervous system is nourished, and all of that is possible through something as deceptively simple and accessible as masturbation. And it is here that we begin to understand that the act is not just physical, but profoundly emotional, even spiritual in many ways. Because when an older adult connects with their own body through deliberate and loving touch, they are in many ways rewriting the stories they were told. Stories that may have made them feel ashamed, that may have told them desire was dirty or irrelevant or only acceptable in the context of youth. And to reclaim that space is to reclaim freedom, not just to feel good, but to live more fully, to age more joyfully, to inhabit one's own life with depth, authenticity, and unapologetic pleasure. And when that becomes part of someone's lifestyle, not as a hidden act, but as a cherished ritual, it creates a rhythm of emotional resilience, of physical grace, of psychological flexibility that can withstand the natural ups and downs of aging without being crushed by them. And that resilience is not just personal. It's relational, because people who feel good in their own skin often become more generous in their relationships, more patient, more present, more affectionate, and that, more than anything else, has the power to bring warmth, connection, and healing into every room they enter. And it all begins simply, quietly, beautifully, with a willingness to listen to the body and give it what it's been asking for all along. Not out of need or shame, but out of love. And as this profound connection with one's own body and pleasure deepens over time, what emerges is not just better sleep, improved health markers, or even increased libido, but a full circle return to joy, a joy that many older adults have long forgotten was theirs to claim. Because masturbation after 60 is not merely an isolated act, but a gateway into reclaiming control over one's own narrative of aging. A statement that says despite the years that have passed, despite the changes in hormone levels, mobility, or social roles, the essence of pleasure, of connection, of vitality remains vibrant and accessible within. And it's here that the greatest transformation happens, not only in the bedroom or in the quiet moments alone, but in the way seniors begin to view themselves, their bodies, and their worthiness of happiness and fulfillment. Because so often aging is framed by society as a slow fade into invisibility, a time when desires should be silenced and needs minimized. But masturbation defies that narrative, offering a radical act of self-kindness that challenges stigma, ignites self-respect, and opens the door to emotional healing. And in that healing, many find that the quality of their relationships improves as well. Because when a person feels safe and whole in their own skin, they bring a different energy into their connections. More openness, less fear, more honesty, and more courage to ask for what they need. And that ripples outward into family dynamics, friendships, and romantic partnerships, creating a cycle of care and communication that enriches all aspects of life. And beyond the emotional and relational benefits, there is the undeniable physical truth that masturbation helps maintain muscle tone, pelvic floor strength, and overall circulation, which are crucial for not only sexual function, but for daily mobility and balance, especially as the body ages and muscle mass naturally declines. And this is why so many health experts now advocate for regular sexual self-expression as part of a comprehensive approach to aging well, alongside exercise, nutrition, and mental health care, because it supports the body in ways that other activities simply can't replicate, offering a unique combination of pleasure, relaxation, and physiological benefit all in one. And while some may worry about the taboo or the judgments that still linger around this topic, it's important to remember that masturbation is a natural, normal, and deeply personal form of self-care, one that deserves to be spoken about openly and without shame, especially for seniors who have the right to enjoy their bodies fully and without apology. And this openness can help break down isolation, encourage more honest conversations between generations, and create a culture where sexual wellness in later life is seen as essential, not optional. And with this cultural shift comes greater access to education, resources, and support for older adults who want to explore their sexuality safely and joyfully. And in the meantime, individuals can begin by simply giving themselves permission to touch, to explore, to enjoy without judgment or guilt, To let go of any beliefs that say pleasure is only for the young or the partner, because pleasure is a birthright that belongs to everyone at every age. And it's through embracing this right that seniors unlock not only better sleep and health, but also a renewed sense of aliveness that infuses every part of their lives with meaning and vitality. And this renewed aliveness is the true essence of healthful living after 60, because it's not about clinging to youth, but about celebrating the wisdom, depth, and beauty that comes with age, all while nurturing the body with care, curiosity, and love. And so the invitation is clear. Don't wait, don't hesitate, don't silence your needs or desires, but rather start today to explore how masturbation can be a powerful part of your health routine, your sleep hygiene, and your emotional well-being. Because when you reclaim your pleasure, you reclaim your life. And there is no greater gift to give yourself in the decades ahead than the knowledge that you are whole, you are worthy, and you are still fully alive.